your whole body goes into like this mode where you're just like feeling disconnected. You're not really present. You will just completely check out, withdraw. Your whole thing is just to conserve energy and really keep yourself safe. Because when I was about 12 or 13 years old, my mom and I moved to a wealthy suburb in the city of Chicago. And coming from a single family home and my mom just being on a teacher's salary, we didn't live in a very fancy place. We were in an apartment and in a community where there were really large homes and very wealthy families that lived there. And in junior high, especially, so this is about seventh grade in the U.S., I was introduced to a whole new world I had not been accustomed to. I wasn't accustomed to these types of kids. I had come from a little bit closer into the city. So I had all these things that I came into, and I was really just unaware and also very timid and shy. And I am a new kid on the block, and so all these kids around me had grown up together and they knew each other very well, and we're all going through puberty together. And there was one class in particular, was math class. The teacher was someone who was experimental, we'll say that. And he arranged the seats in the math class to have an aisle in the center of the room, and the desks, rows of desks would face into the aisle, so you could see kids across the way, as versus just staring all forward and looking at the chalkboard, for example. So what that did for me is it made me feel very, very exposed and in people's sight. And the boys in the class and some of the girls were teasing me. I was getting a lot of looks and a lot of gestures that seemed to indicate there was something wrong with me. And I didn't know what they were calling me. It was very new, and I remember there were some shows on at the time that talked about gay people in a very derogatory way, and so I was getting some of that as well. And every day for that entire year in that school, I had to go to that math class and face these kids, and it was just constant. I remember just crying, wanting to escape, wanting to be invisible. That whole year of trauma for me really became something that settled into my body and created responses in me that years later I still find myself dealing with. And in that response, your whole body goes into like this mode where you're just like feeling disconnected. You're not really present. You're not able to really feel a lot. You may numb yourself. You will just completely check out, withdraw. Your whole thing is just to conserve energy and really keep yourself safe. And I know for me, a lot of this is related to being vigilant and being on guard to just protect myself, to keep that from coming at me. So what does this have to do with authenticity, connection, vulnerability, relationships, finding belonging? So you're online or you're on an app and you're trying to date somebody, you're scrolling through a feed, you're trying to connect with somebody perhaps on social media, and something just flips a switch in you where you start to feel shut down. And you're having a response that's related to the need to protect yourself. And what's going to happen? You're going to pull away and you may shut off and you'll just like not be present at all. And unfortunately what happens is maybe those other people that you're potentially dating or making friends with or whatever, they don't understand what's going on with you. You're reliving something and you're protecting yourself from something that's really based in the past. You may try to avoid situations altogether. Like I had made a habit of, when I started to feel myself brushing up against something that was making me super uncomfortable, vulnerable, and feeling exposed, pointed out, judged, all of that, where I would really epically disappear. I would just go off the radar, like off the map. No one's going to find me. I am just going to be like, I'm not here. And the feedback that I had gotten from people that knew me is they were taking it kind of a little bit it was difficult for them because they didn't understand. They thought it was about them. They thought there was something that maybe I felt like I was better than them, or that I was rejecting them, and that was really just not at all. And a lot of it for me was just unconscious, where I felt like these things were threats to me, and I unconsciously, my body was unconsciously protecting myself. It becomes very hard to take risks, where you feel if you do step out there, you're going to get some really negative feedback, or you're going to get a really harsh judgment made against you. And you're going to be like, why did I even bother? And you're going to double back. And it actually, something else happens too. And I know this is for me a lot. Shame starts to kind of really rear its ugly head, and it just compounds for me, where I feel like the more that I try to fight it, the more that I try to get out of it, the more ashamed that I feel that somehow I don't have control over it. And there are a number of ways that this can be triggered, especially for a gay man. The one obvious one is homophobia, where you are being singled out in either at work or in a neighborhood or somewhere in a social setting, where you are like pulled out as someone who is worthy of being teased and taunted and worse. And that puts you into a state of like, there's no escape. If you live in a small town, or if you're in a place where it's very anti-gay, it's going to be extremely difficult for you. Another scenario is coming out. I know for me, coming out was a 2-year process for the most part. And even after that, it was a number of years just feeling comfortable. And it could be a very feeling of being triggered in the fact that you're sensing the need to have other people's approval, your family, people, friends from school. You could have been in a fraternity. It could have been any number of situations where you are going to start facing the fact that you are different, that there is something that maybe perhaps you had let on that you weren't, and then voila, there you are. Any type of intimate relationship, partner, someone that you're seriously dating, when this comes up, it could be a very, very difficult thing to work through, because when you're starting to feel maybe something that they said sets you off, and you feel a sense of deep shame, or you feel like and it doesn't even have to be something that's like logical or something that is on the surface where it's conscious to you. You could just start running on autopilot in a need to just like close off. It could be you're in intimacy, having intimate relations with your partner, and something just sets that off, and you just double down, and you're not there. And unfortunately, what happens, that creates confusion on the part of your partner to establish a sense of trust and a sense of connection with them. Another area is in healthcare, when you're seeing a physician who may not know that you're gay or that you're out, or may have no experience in treating someone who is gay. And so you don't necessarily want to even disclose certain behaviors that could expose you, or you might need help, and you might feel like overwhelmed with the idea of even trying to present that. Public displays of affection are another area that is very thorny for a lot of guys. And you may want to show that. You may feel very conflicted about it, and say you care about somebody very much, and all of a sudden you want to grab their hand, and you're in this mode where you don't know what to do, and you just feel like, well, if I do it, that's going to mean something, and if I don't do it, then it's going to mean something, so I might as well do nothing. And then you're fighting yourself on that one, and what happens when you got all that overload? You just shut down, and you're just like, I'm just not going to do it at all. When that feeling comes on you, where you feel that sense of like, I guess, dissociating from what's going on around you, you're completely like, I call it like you're just up in your head. You can't feel anything, and I know for me, I feel like I get a headache, or I feel that my head is full, and I cannot like concentrate, and it's like I'm flooded with so much information that is all like jumbled up, and all the do's and the don'ts and shoulds and shouldn'ts and all that, they're all competing with each other, that I can't do anything. And I talked about this before, where breathing just can really help to regulate your system, where you're just like you're slowing yourself down. You're taking yourself out of the need to think, and you're allowing your body to just kind of like take care of itself. Self-care, doing things like working out or taking a long walk, or just, if you love to garden, getting into the earth and working with plants, things that just get you in touch with the earth. Smelling sensations, like in, it's springtime in Chicago, and you smell the grass that's growing, you smell the flowers, and you see the leaves on the trees coming out. It can really get you in touch with your senses. Anything that helps to ground you in the present is going to help you bring you back out of that. And I can tell you, like in my own personal experience, that sense of just being like not connected with the present, or not connected with like the earth, it's very powerful. I can just go hours and days without thinking about anything, and I will just be binge watching television programs, or I'll just be mindlessly scrolling through social media, or I'll just like look at the news, and just on and on and on, in an effort just to not think. And I'm attempting to just shut everything down, because it's like I'm powering down. And to a degree, powering down, yeah, that's good. But when it starts to affect your ability to connect with others, it becomes problematic, because you still need people, and you still need to have that sense of belonging. Another thing that I learned just recently in my meditation is this 5-4-3-2-1. And that's where you look in your environment and identify things that you can experience through your senses. So it'll be 5 things that you can see visually around you, and you look at them and you notice them and you see them around you. And then there's going to be 4 things that you can touch. Maybe, for me, it might be my dog, or my lap, or the wall, or the fabric on my furniture. I'll just kind of like get in touch with that. And then there's going to be the things that you can hear around you. So I might be hearing my dog snoring, or I can hear people outside the apartment where I live, and I can hear the cars going through. And so I'm focusing on that. And then I'll like think about and see what it is that I can smell. I might be having coffee, or I can just, if I'm out walking, I'll just sense, like I mentioned before, flowers or something like that. I can just like see and sense things through my nose. And then finally, there's something that I can find that I can taste. So I might be drinking my coffee, and I'll just be savoring that, or a snack that I'm having, or even just water. Like, water can have its taste too. They say it's tasteless. But those kinds of things can help to ground you. And I've also found that the more that you practice noticing and keeping track of patterns that you're noticing, in terms of like, I feel this way and this happened, and taking note of maybe perhaps what is triggering you, keeps you grounded in the present as well, because you're not just completely checked out. You're actually taking stock or note of things that are happening, that are causing these chain reactions to happen with you. But probably one of the most important things, especially if it is causing a real serious problem with you, is to actually reach out to someone who's a professional, and find someone that you can actually talk with, a mental health professional, or a therapist, or a counselor, or something like that. Someone where you can talk through those things, and because trauma is very, very hard to get through, and it can actually send you into memories that can almost be like a runaway train. So definitely would encourage you to look into that as well.